This is the author reading the story with no trace impact. Do you build a forest branch house or not? For the Growing Optimism, September 21st, 2021. Remember, there is a discussion guide that is available to accompany this story. So let's get going. They are 5 friends for years. They would be forever. They were young to the earth's presence. They grew up close, 2 + 2 + 1 from 3 families. Adventure was a shared middle name. Their favorite day was Saturday, the pleasure of the day before them, with blessings from the elders who knew. With lunches and water and backpacks, off they went to their forest, a forest they thought was grown for them. Gathering at the forest gate, 2 mature spruce welcomed them. They stood below the arching branches, ready for the magic of the day. All present, greetings made with the 2 spruce, they began the walk, led by the one assigned, the task by the schedule they had created after their second visit a year ago. Location was chosen by the lead, no more than 10 minutes in a direction that called to this person, unless a murmur arose from among them. The selection was evolving with each visit. Knowing each location was different, their involvement was guided by the Fae. This day, the trek was towards the river at the fringe of the aspen spruce grove, a meeting place of yesteryear as they were told by the elders of their families. On the outer edges of this grove, in sight of the river flowing through the woods, this was the place for lunch, and all agreed. The activity upon arrival was a simple celebration of words before the packs were placed on the ground for welcoming of the wild kin and celebrating the trees and plants about them. For this greeting, a tall spruce showing age of many years stood before them. Hand in hand, they circled the spruce with smiles. Who led the walk spoke the group's greeting in simple terms learnt from Tisei's grandfather, whose days in the forest were many. With this greeting nearing its end, they listened for the message in return. A gust of wind more distinct than a breeze moved through the forest canopy. The forest whispered evidence of an additional voice this day, one the group had not witnessed before, and the shivers grew looks. The spruce waved its branches, as did the other spruce and aspen. Ilo shared today was a festive day, with greetings from the wind and forest in celebration of their presence. Hetron shared the closing greetings. Now complete, the others placed their packs by the spruce they called presents, a way for them to root hello. They gathered in a hexagon, starting their new conversation of what might happen today in the presence of the forest and the elders who knew, the Fae who knew. They used an approach agreed upon after their visits a year gone by, an approach they confirmed at their winter meeting. Conversations began respecting each contribution. Tisei asked a question of weather because the wind gusted earlier with fluffy clouds building in the west. Tsu shared all was okay for the day, for she checked before they left their homes, as was her task for this day in the forest of spruce and aspen. Hetos shared today was for exploration in the nooks and crannies of the forest, close to the elder spruce, for guidance back together. Hetron agreed with both, acknowledging the day. It was, as it can be, with discovery of the stories to share at lunch. Etlo could explore with visits to the others to ensure their well-being and to encourage their curiosity. He was the oldest by 134 days. He could assign the connective walk to another because he was the guardian of the day. However, today, he held that trust. The incentive to return were the cookies Elo brought. They were too good to keep till lunch. They dispersed within the sight of the elder spruce in a direction that called to each. They had confirmed to each other the whistle song would bring them back. Elo walked the amoeba trail among them. Hetos looked into the branches from tree to tree. Tissot weaved in view of the creek among the trees. Tissé smelt from tree to tree close to the bark. Hetron knelt to see the ground covering at the aspens at this time. As was their custom, Elo blew once on his whistle. All returned within a few minutes to the fine cookies awaiting. Pulling water bottles, they moved together. Quiet fell over the group as they sat, with the cookies in the middle, 3 for each. Thanks given to Elo's grandmama, whose forest time was limited now. She enjoyed their stories upon their return. With fingers licked, finding the crumbs on the clothes, all was cleaned up. Tissot closed the lid, returning the container to Elo, who said, "Who has a story?" So it began, their stories from the forest where they had visited on this day of gratitude and presence. Having shared their stories with laughter filling the gaps, each was getting better at sharing stories for their friends, each agreeing to keep one for a home. Hetron asked, "What happens now?" Opportunities were many. Hetos spoke with strength about answering the questions assigned for their first visit to the forest this summer. Tissé and Tissot, smiling and agreeing, slapping their hands on thighs, wiggled in anticipation. Hetron offering an okay, Elo acknowledging the earlier spring meeting. At that meeting, they gathered at Hetron's home to share learnings from their studies, because something they learned elsewhere guided their forest visits. 2 important questions were offered at that spring meeting when Hetos asked, "Do you plant a tree where a tree is not? How do you ensure no trace impact on forest visits?" Both questions were assigned, the first to Tissé and Tissot, and the second to Hetron, Hetus, with Elo given the choice, thereafter to guide the conversation. Today's forest visit was the first of the summer, and they had agreed to answer these 2 questions. Now it was time to share their insights. Elo asked all to consider the second question first. And now what I ask of you is, what is your answer to the second question? I encourage you to take a few minutes to reflect, maybe even write down, draw your response. And if you have someone around who's listening to the story, ask them to do the same, and then have a conversation. If you find yourself alone, having read the story and you're answering the second question, then get ready to summarize what you read so that you might ask someone else the same second question. And with that, enjoy all of your wonder and wander as you interact with the 5 children from this story.